Frequency response, right? Describes the relationship between a device's input and output with regards to frequency and amplitude. Used to describe usable frequency range. Here's a great example of what it looks like in a graph, right? It's relatively flat in the middle, but then it has different characteristics. Just like our ear has a frequency response, every piece of gear has a frequency response. Written as a frequency range as a tolerance, like 20 hertz to 19K plus or minus 3 decibels. So that gives you sort of a tolerance, even though it's not perfectly flat, it'll lie within that 3 decibel range from those frequencies. Here's a good example, a microphone, an SM58, Shure Brothers, which is the microphone you predominantly see at every club in town on the stage, the vocal mic. Has a ball on the end, and most people use these as live microphones. This is what the frequency response looks like. The reason people tend to like it is you see here above 1,000 hertz to 10,000 hertz, there's a little bump up of about 5 decibels in there. What does that do? That makes it sound more lifelike because it accents the upper harmonic structure of a voice. It's a very useful mic. I use it on drums, I use it on guitars, I use it on a lot of stuff. And that just goes to show you, 6.8K, if you bump it up, it's going to sound better. You know what? The truth is that there's no optimum, really. It's just understanding how they interact. And the fact is, if you use a specific mic with a curve like this, you may not have to EQ it. If you use a mic with a different kind of frequency response, you may want to EQ it because it will sound better when you EQ it. So many times your choice of microphones and how you process before you get to the EQing stage really affects, like I'm saying, when somebody gives me something that sounds rotten, I have to fix it. But if I record it and I choose the right mics and I put them in the right places and I love the sound I'm getting when I record it, then I don't really have to do a lot more to it. But that comes with a lot of experience in knowing how things are going to end up sounding mixed when you're recording them as pieces. Okay, so we talked about frequency response. A wire itself has frequency response, believe it or not. And let me give you an example. We talked about the monster cable and how, you know, the capacitance per foot is different and lower than the ordinary guitar cable and why they sell it for so much more. What everybody neglects to tell you is that if you go ahead and take, you know, the cable that they use for cable television, a coaxial cable it's called. It's, you know, everybody's seen it, you know, if you have any cable TV. That handles video signals, which are way above audio signals. So if you use that as a guitar cable, it's going to sound way better than monster cable, if you can actually hear the difference. Because the frequency response is so much greater, it goes up so much higher before it starts rolling off the high frequencies. Nobody ever tells you that because it's probably about a half a cent a foot, where monster cable is like $10 a foot, right? So the only problem with it is it's solid core, so it's solid copper on the inside, and if you move it around too much, it'll break. So, but they're cheap enough to keep building more of them because they're really, they actually, or if you're building your home project studio and you want to have one mic cable go to, you know, the other room that's not going to move around a lot, use that. It'll sound better. It'll like be better than monster cable.
What's the person?
It's the cable I'm talking about is a video cable, right? Any video cable, even those video extension cables, you can get an adapter to make that F connector adapt to a 1/4 inch or whatever.
Can you hear the difference?
You know what?
Because
That's a really good question because the truth is, I don't. And I've built a lot of studios where producers have insisted on monster cable, and I go, okay, because I just make a bigger markup.
you can see the
That brings me to the more important summation point of this whole thing. Does it matter? Right? If you like what you're hearing, that's all that matters. Whether it's correct or not correct, right frequencies, wrong frequencies, none of that matters. If it sounds good to you, and sometimes bad sounds are very artistic, right? So it just depends on your style, your personal taste, and it all boils down to that. I mean, I'm sitting here for like 2 hours, 3 hours telling you about all the technical rights and wrongs, but now you got to get rid of them. And now that you know them, or you at least heard about them, now you got to actually, do what you like. Do what sounds good to you. Do what feels right to you. Because that's what's really the artistic part of it, right? And I've always operated from that principle with the concept that if I like it, I think you might like it. So, and I've been lucky enough that millions of people have listened to what I've done and they liked it. Or liked it enough to buy it. Maybe not liked it like other things, but you see what I'm saying? So that's the whole point, is that everything is an artistic expression, and if it creates a mood and communicates to your audience, that's all that matters. I mean, even if it's like, I was just talking with a manager that I used to have from New York. He popped into town today and we had lunch. We're sitting there talking. He's talking about this 80s metal stuff, right? Like, I think he was talking about Motley Crue or something. And he's going, God, I really hated that stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? It's great for what it is. It's like cave drawings. It's so transparently not complicated. It's like, it's like simplistic. But in that simplicity is elegance for what it is. He's into jazz, so of course he thought it was really, you see what I'm saying? Every type of music, every style of music has its place. It's just like, you don't wear the same clothes every day. You don't want the same music every day. You want to have variety, and you have to appreciate all the different styles, because if they really communicate a mood to you, then it's done its job. So when you're EQing, when you're, whatever you're doing, please try to keep that in mind and forget about the rules. I'm just giving you a couple tips to maybe start with, or things that I know work well for me. But it may not work well for you. And the truth is, you do what sounds good to you. It may be totally not by the book, but it could become everybody copying you. So that's what I'm saying. Whatever really sounds right to you guys, follow that and to the ultimate end, and do it as well as you can. Because I think that individuality creates uniqueness. And uniqueness is really important in music, because when I hear your music or your music or your music, I want to know it's yours or yours or yours. I don't want to think that it's some generic thing that I don't know who did it, right? You want to communicate your identity through the music. At least that's my feeling. Of course, it's art, so whatever I'm saying is just my opinion.
But